Hello everyone and welcome to Providence, Rhode Island for the Open Series. I'm Glenn Jones and I'm joined in the booth by Reid Duke.
Hey Glenn.
Reid, you didn't go out to Grand Prix Albuquerque this weekend to play your standard. You stayed sort of in your home area.
Yeah.
And you brought a pretty spicy deck. We saw it in round one on the SCG Live camera. You're playing Prime Speaker Bant.
Yep.
But it's got a lot of new cards, especially new cards from Theros that have kind of souped up the strategy.
Yep.
So I guess we'll start with the base because everyone's familiar with Prime Speaker Bant, playing a bunch of mana dorks for starters.
Mm-hmm.
You lost your Arbor Elf, but you've gained Sylvan Primordial, arguably much better.
Yeah.
And you're also playing Voyaging Satyr as a couple extra cards, and they particularly combo with Nykthos.
Yeah. So like you said, lost Arbor Elf and lost Farseek, but in exchange, you have these really good collection of mana creatures that actually make Nykthos quite a powerful engine.
Moving up the curve, Prophet of Krufix is one of the cards that made me actually pretty impressed by the idea of this deck. It's a really powerful card if you haven't gotten the chance to play with it. It's pretty good in limited, and it's got a hopeful home in Constructed. I know Brad, when he first saw it, was like, that's my card, that's what I'm going to build around, and since then he's let it fall by the wayside. But in this deck, especially alongside Plasm Capture, a card you're familiar with from Pro Tour Dragon's Maze, where you managed to finish in the top 16, if I recall, you're getting to capture more and more spells, especially in this day and age. People are playing Nykthos, powering out these gigantic things. You're Plasm Capturing some pretty nice stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the Prophet and the Plasm Capture are like the hallmark cards of the deck. Plasm Capture was the original inspiration with all the Devotion decks, their strategy being basically play one very powerful spell per turn at sorcery speed. I was like, well, Plasm Capture could be great. And the Prophet of Krufix is I started with 3 copies, but it was immediately apparent that it should be 4. It's just so good in this deck, both in combination with Plasm Capture and with the more expensive cards.
Yeah, you're pretty consistently turn 4ing it. You even have some hope of being able to turn 3 the Prophet, which is obviously a pretty big gain. And also, it makes up for its mana cost when your deck is so dense with creatures or with counter spells.
Yeah, it's amazing the types of comebacks this deck can muster. You can be at 3 life against 5 creatures, and then suddenly it's Prophet, untap everything, then play 2 more blockers, and all of a sudden just the tables turn.
All right, well, moving up, let's talk about some of the fatties you are casting. Prime Speaker, Zagana. We're all kind of familiar with her from her last stint in Standard, and obviously in this deck, you've got some smaller creatures down here on the curve. You're not really, Thragtusk Prime Speakering like you used to be able to, so instead of Thragtusk, you have to play Polukranos. Have to is kind of a strong word though, right? Because he's really sweet.
Yeah, he's actually a really natural fit because it's one of the best creatures you can play on turn 3 or 4 to turn a game against aggro. It's just bigger than everything at that stage of the game. And also, it serves as an excellent mana sink if you do get the Prophet of Krufix or the Nykthos or Plasm Capture, something to just generate an unfair amount of mana, you can just wipe their board.
Yeah, he obviously grows incredibly
really
huge.
double duty in this deck.
All right, alongside the Polukranos and the Prime Speaker, you have a couple other decent-sized mana sinks. One of them is a sweeper I'll bet most of your opponents aren't going to see coming.
Right.
Curse of the Swine. I saw that you've got pig tokens at the ready. That's I don't think many people would have brought their pig tokens. And the other one is Primeval Bounty, which a lot of people have kind of been banning about for some time as sort of a fair deck mirror breaker. If you're going to play a long grinding game, Primeval Bounty is pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, it really shines against mono black Devotion because black as a color has no way to remove an enchantment, and yeah, I mean once the game kind of stalls out and a Primeval Bounty is on the table, it's really close to unbeatable.
Yeah, the black decks have become really focused on attrition. That's why the deck rose in the first place, to combat these Devotion decks. But your deck can actually go well over the top of what they're trying to Thoughtseize, right? You've got so many forms of raw card advantage. Things like Plasm Capture and Prime Speaker are really just huge plays against those decks.
At a certain point, the Primeval Bounty, the Prime Speaker, the Sphinx's Revelation, it's they can be drawing 3 cards a turn off Underworld Connections, but you're just drawing way more than that, and so they really have to beat you in a very pretty narrow window in the mid game, because once it gets beyond that, your cards are just too powerful.
All right, well, shifting to the sideboard, you have a few more fatties up. You've got one Aetherling in the main deck. You've got another one to complement it. And I gotta say, Aetherling with Flash seems like one of the more unfair things you can actually do.
Never feel safe.
And then also you have Mistcutter Hydra, which any creature with X and Plasm Capture is a pretty attractive combination.
Yeah, that's actually how I won the first round. We had fought a counter battle where I ended up resolving 2 Plasm Captures. And he's like, all right, go ahead. I untapped and played a 10-10 Mistcutter Hydra just to win the game on the spot.
That'll end the game in short order. Fireball Creature. And last but not least, a 1-of Sylvan Primordial. What made you want to play the Sylvan Primordial?
Well, it's actually a pretty powerful effect in this format, destroying non-creature permanent, in addition to the half dozen planeswalkers that are very, very popular. People have underworld connections, so you actually get like a 3-for-1 if you blow up the land. People have Whip of Erebos, all these like miscellaneous non-creatures that are like really powerful and really hard for this deck to beat otherwise. So, you know, if I can get 7 mana, why not?
If you're gonna blow it up, you might as well blow it up for the maximum amount of value.
Yeah.
All right, Reid. Well, thank you for joining me and explaining the deck. Good luck in the rest of the tournament.
Thanks.